A simple traffic stop can turn into a nightmare if you own a firearm, especially in California. You think you're following the law, but in just a few minutes during a stop, you could find yourself arrested and losing your gun rights forever. That's because cops use tricks, legal loopholes, to get you to slip up. And once you do, you could be facing felony charges. Hi, I'm Dan Kolacia. I'm a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor with over 100 jury trials, and I've seen it all. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 tricks police use during traffic stops to take away your firearms and how to protect yourself during these stops. So stick around, because one mistake could cost you your Second Amendment rights. Let's get into it. So trick number 1, the police officer simply asking if you have any weapons in the car. I've seen hundreds of videos dealing with traffic stops, both as a former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. When the police officer walks up to the vehicle on a traffic stop, asks the driver for the driver's license and the registration, the officer will then ask the driver, do you have any weapons or anything illegal in the car? Here's where things get tricky. California Penal Code 25850 makes it illegal to carry a loaded firearm in public, and that includes in your vehicle. Now, if you voluntarily answer yes when an officer asks if you have any weapons in the vehicle, according to California law, you may have given that officer probable cause to search your vehicle, because under California Penal Code 25850, a police officer has a right to inspect a firearm to see if it's loaded, if it's in public. Once they have that probable cause, they can legally search your car without a warrant, and that search could lead to a discovery of a weapon. And if your firearm is not stored properly or unregistered, this could potentially lead to arrest and charges. But the real issue here is that by confirming you have a weapon, you might be unknowingly setting yourself up for legal trouble. Even if the firearm is unloaded, if it's in your vehicle, the officer might assume it's accessible, and that could violate other laws related to concealed carry or possession. So let's be clear, you do not have to answer police questions. If an officer asks you a question, you remain calm and politely say that you do not speak to police without a lawyer present, or you can say, I exercise my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Trick number 2 is when an officer asks you for your consent to search your vehicle. The officer, in a very nice and authoritative way, will ask to search your vehicle. A lot of times they ask in a way you do not think you have a choice. But if an officer asks to search your vehicle, you do have a choice to either give the officer consent to search or tell them no, they do not have consent. Now, you may think it's easier just to agree, especially if you have nothing to hide. But this is one of the biggest mistakes people make. When you consent to a search, you're giving up your Fourth Amendment rights, which protects you from unreasonable searches. Here's the problem. If you do have a legal gun, you could accidentally be charged with violating Penal Code 25400 if the gun is not stored properly. For instance, you have it in your glove box. If the officer finds it in a place where it's not allowed in the glove box, or if it's concealed without a proper permit, you could face criminal charges. Always remember, you have the right to refuse a search unless the officer has a warrant or through an exception to the warrant. If the officer searches your car without a warrant and without your consent, they may have violated your rights. A skilled criminal defense lawyer will be able to analyze the case and file the right motions to get the search thrown out of court. So if an officer asks to search your car, politely decline and ask to speak to your attorney before moving forward. Trick number 3, it's a classic: lack of proper gun storage. This is more of a mistake that's easy to make when you're not familiar with California laws. According to California Penal Code 25400, carrying a concealed firearm in a vehicle without a valid permit is illegal. Even if you have a permit to carry a firearm, it must be properly stored. If an officer pulls you over and you have a gun in your vehicle without the proper storage, they may arrest you on the spot. So whether your firearm is loaded or unloaded, proper storage is a key to avoiding serious charges. So to keep yourself out of trouble, store your firearm in a locked container out of your reach. So in a locked container in the trunk of your car, or if the vehicle does not have a trunk, in the back storage compartment. But most importantly, unloaded and in a locked container. Remember, be sure it is unloaded. This may seem like an overabundance of caution. I would suggest the ammunition is stored in another locked container separate from the firearm. Even though the definition under People v. Crawford of unloaded firearm for the purpose of open carry or carry a concealed firearm means that the firearm has no bullets in the chamber or magazines attached to the firearm. We have seen law enforcement arrest and district attorneys file open carry violations for unloaded firearms because a firearm is near a magazine or near ammunition, even though the firearm isn't loaded. So always store firearms unloaded and in a locked container and out of easy reach. This will help ensure you're not violating the law and it will keep you out of trouble. So trick number 4 is for those who live out of California but come to California to visit. It's when an officer discovers you have an unregistered firearm in your vehicle. California requires that all firearms be registered with the California Department of Justice, basically through a licensed gun dealer. And failure to register a firearm can lead to a felony charge under Penal Code 25-850. So let's say you live in a state that does not require registration of firearms. For instance, Texas. This is where we've seen law enforcement in California will pull over an out-of-state vehicle, find a firearm, and charge the driver with carrying an unregistered firearm. It's unfair because some states don't require you to register firearms. And I agree, but prosecutors are filing these cases. Even if the firearm is legally owned and not in use, the officer could seize that firearm during the stop and charge you for possessing an unregistered weapon. So failure to register can be a serious violation and is something police often look for when they discover a weapon in your car. So make sure if you're in California, all your firearms are properly registered. And if you're uncertain about the registration status of your weapon, it's best to get it sorted out with a licensed gun dealer before you enter a situation like this. And if you're from out of state and you drive to California, do not take your firearm to the state unless it is registered. This is abundance of caution, but it can keep you out of trouble in California. Finally, trick number 5. It involves if you have a registered firearm, police are going to know and will try to find a way to search your car. Remember, you can have a violation of the law if you carry an unregistered firearm. Well, when you register a firearm, you are now the target for searches by police. When officers are pulling your vehicle over, they call to dispatch, and dispatch runs your license plates, and they'll tell the officer that the vehicle's registration is up to date, driver's license is valid. In some dispatch calls I listen to, officers will also get notified that the driver owns a firearm. This is mainly for officer safety. However, I've seen time and time again, the officer will use that information and ask the driver if he has his or her firearm in the vehicle. Or the officer with authority asks, where are you keeping your firearm? The officer is using the information of you owning a registered firearm to search your vehicle. And most drivers will allow an officer to search thinking, hey, I'm trying to be helpful. We've seen cases where officers will just search the vehicle looking for the firearm registered to the driver. The officer constantly asking, hey, where your firearm is, and keep searching the car, even though the firearm's not in the car. So if you have a registered firearm, which if you own a firearm in California, it should be registered, just remember law enforcement will know and ask you about it in almost every traffic stop. So if an officer asks about a firearm you own, stay calm and politely tell them that you will not answer any questions without a lawyer present. Exercise your right to remain silent, and that'll help protect all the other rights you have. So being aware of these tricks is important to know if you own a firearm and you drive in California. Firearm laws in California are very strict. Violating these laws, even if they are misdemeanor, can result in a lifetime or a 10-year ban on the possession of your firearms. So if you are in the Southern California area and you're facing a charge you need help with, give us a call for a free consultation and call this number on the screen. But if the cops pull you over and try to make you talk, did you know police have specific tricks they're trained to use to get you talking? Check out this next video where I give you the top tricks cops use and what you could do to protect yourself. See you over there.